Hey guys, Graham here from therecordingrevolution.com, and welcome to another 5 minutes to a better mix tutorial where we're looking at 31 mixing tips in 31 days. And today I want to talk to you about how to get a punchy drum sound if you're recording multi-track drums. And the key here is you have to make sure that you've got the optimal phase relationship between your close drum mics and your overhead or room mics, okay? Now, I'm not gonna get super technical because I'm not a very technical person, but I wanna show you a handy trick that will help you really quickly at the beginning of any mix, make sure that you have the best possible sound out of your drum kit before you start slapping on EQ and compression. Let me show you what I mean. If you have multiple drum tracks, we wanna make sure that these close mics, kick, snare, toms, whatever, are at the optimal phase relationship with the overhead mics. And the only way you'll know that is if you listen to your track in mono, okay? So what I'm gonna do is make sure I flip my mix into mono. Right now, if I listen to the drums, they're in stereo, okay? Not a problem. I'm gonna grab my master fader or my submix channel, and I'm gonna slap on a plugin here in Pro Tools, at least under Sound Field, stereo width, which allows you to pull the width of your mix to 0. So now my drums are in mono. This is just one way. You can use a lot of plugins to drop your mix to mono. Sometimes your audio interface might have a mono button on the front. The idea is that you lose the stereo field and all your tracks, no matter where they're panned, are going to come up the center. This is what we want to do before we start phase checking our drums, because in mono, that's when your whole stereo image is going to collapse. And if you have things out of phase, that's when you're going to notice them. So without getting technical, just know that you won't notice the phase problems for the most part in stereo. Mono is going to be the kicker, and this is going to help us tremendously. What I do then is simply solo the overhead track, turn it up, and then I will start soloing one at a time the close mics alongside the overhead mic. And what I want to do is pull up a simple EQ plugin here in Pro Tools. It can be a trim plugin, it can be any kind of plugin that's going to give you this phase reverse or polarity reverse button. It looks like a 0 with a line through it, okay? A lot of plugins will just have this, so search for it. This is going to basically take your waveform and flip it upside down, back and forth, just by pressing this button. In stereo, you won't notice a difference, but in mono, we might find that one version of the phase of the drums sounds better than the other. So let's take a listen. Did you hear how that changed? Do you hear how that low end comes back? That means that this kick drum is at the best phase where it was. When I flipped the phase, it got thin. Listen to it again. Yeah, it sounds crappy. So this reminds me, hey, the kick drum was fine. Leave it as is. Let's move on to the snare drum. I'm going to just move this plug-in over. Same thing, the snare drum sounded nice and full, but when I flipped the phase, it sounded really thin. So I'm going to leave that phase the way it is on the snare drum. So now let's move to the toms. Let's go find an area where there's a tom hit, tom roll, something like that. Let's see here. So let's listen to the high tom. Turn up the fader. Let's flip it. All right, so that made it sound worse. So we'll keep that tom the way it is. And let's find the floor tom. Move the EQ over here. So do you hear this? When I flip the phase on the floor tom, it gets fatter. It goes from this to this. Heck yeah, that's the floor tom I need to hear. This little exercise, which is now complete, made sure that my kick, snare, and high tom was just where I wanted it. It sounded its best, but I realized that the floor tom because of where it was placed, the mic pointing away from maybe the overhead mics. It sounds thinner than it really should, and I wouldn't have known that. I would have started EQing some low end, but all I had to do was flip the phase to go to this instead of this. Ugh. So this gives me my fatness back on my floor tom, and now I'm ready to mix the rest of the kit. It's as simple as that. Check your close mic drums in mono to your overheads to find which phase relationship is the absolute best for the most fatness. It can fix a lot of things that were recorded improperly, and then you're ready to start EQing and compressing and mixing to taste. Hope that helps you guys. Again, this is Graham at therecordingrevolution.com. Hope to see you tomorrow for another 5 minutes to a better mix tutorial. Take care.